All right, joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, the co-host of the U.S. Sailor fifth quarter call-in show, which is coming your way this Saturday after East Carolina, North Texas. Host of the Holton Ahlers show, former Pirate QB Holton Ahlers is here. Holt, how we doing?
Clip, doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Bowl eligible, and
Let's go.
we were excited watching that on last Thursday as East Carolina won on the road at Tulsa, and we talked about it. Holton kind of won an ugly one, which was good for Blake Harrell, good for Kane Hauser, good for this team. They had kind of cruised by the previous 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So this one was a little bit different than those.
Yeah, it was nice to see. I mean, you got to be able to win the ugly games. You're never going to play perfect every single game. You know, even the games, weren't we like a 14-point favorite in that?
Yeah, it went to like 16 and a half.
Yeah, so like, I mean, there's going to be games like that where like it's ugly, but you got to find a way to win, especially if you want to be a good team and if Coach Harrell wants to be a legit, coaching candidate. So I think it was a big win for it. And like I said on the fifth quarter call-in show and on the podcast this week, like Caden Hauser not playing his best is probably good for Pirate Nation too to keep him around. So
yeah, you were big on that point, which kind of confused some callers, but we got through it the other night on the fifth quarter. Orthopedist East injury report. Holton, they don't tell us anything. So have you talked to anyone about Chase Owell, Winston Wright? Do you know anything right now?
So I talked to Chase Owell's dad a decent amount, but I mean, I don't know if that's like I should be saying that on air or not, if it's not on the injury report, I guess. But yeah, from everything I've heard, like not just from him that they're playing. So, hopefully they go out there and good. But I was really impressed with Yannick Smith, who came in and performed really well when his name was called when those two guys were hurt. So I think we got guys behind. And this offense, too, is built to, no matter who's in, to perform and to out-scheme people. So I think we'll be fine. I'd be more worried about the defense because their quarterback is very, very good and they sling it around.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. So since I've been doing this and the pregame, we used to have an injury report. Coaches made injury reports. Now, how accurate those were, you could argue. I was like Belichick and folks in the NFL famous for kind of not being 100% honest with those.
They get fined now doing that.
Yeah. But in college football, the trend started years ago where you didn't have to do one. So it was like, why do one? Yeah. And now nobody does one, including East Carolina. So we have to find out through back channels, if we're going to get that information and pass along that information. So it makes it tricky. I wish they'd do it like the NFL. And now with gambling and everything,
I was going to have a story about that.
What you got?
So in 2020, we were actually talking about it last night on the podcast when we recorded 2020 when I got I tested positive or whatever for COVID. Our boy Jeff Nadeau was the first one to break that I wasn't going to play. Did you? In fact, now wait a second. You were the one who spilled the news, Clip.
Wait,
it just all hit my. But anyways, so wow, that all just hit me all at one time.
Wait a minute, I do.
But no, I mean the whole week we're like I got the positive test and no one on the team else had positive tests, so we knew it was a fake or a false positive or whatever it is during the time. And I met with Coach Houston. I was like, we gotta I tested again, like 3 more times, negative. But if you had one positive, you had to miss a game. And we wouldn't break the news and he was like, well, look, it's just there's more things involved. And he was talking about betting and stuff. Like they couldn't release it. And I'm like looking back now. Dang,
I guess I probably said, hey, just a heads up. I'm hearing some stuff. So I don't know. Just trying to help my fellow man.
Absolutely, yeah. Clip won like $5,000 on that game. Actually.
Yeah, I wonder what game was that?
Navy.
That was Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I took the under. That was an ugly one. But yeah, you know what? To avoid stuff like that, make a freaking report. Make an injury report.
It's just like you'd be surprised, and Danny probably knows this too. It's like how not like staff wise, but like people around athletics. There's a lot of lazy people who don't want to do extra work, and if you have an injury report, that's just extra work someone has to do.
Well, Danny Beal likes doing more work.
He's a grinder.
Done quite a bit of this week. Talking to Holton Ahlers here, and Holton, you mentioned North Texas. So I need to look this up. I need to grab the Phil Steele magazines, but 73.5. Is that the big? I feel like I've had this conversation recently in the last year or two. I can't imagine we would have had a huge over last year with our offense. So maybe it was your last year where we had something similar. I'll have to look it up, but this is one of the biggest totals I've ever seen with East Carolina football.
Yeah, it's been since I've been following it, like the odds and stuff. It's been 2 years now. The only one I can think of is like 2019 SMU. They scored a lot of points, and we just came off a lot of points versus Cincinnati. But I don't know otherwise. It's a lot of points, man.
Yeah, it says a lot about their offense, what you mentioned a moment ago, their defense, but also our defense. And can we put something together? Because we've heard a lot of folks who people love Blake Harrell, but the defense, I don't know if disappointment's the word, but has not been as good as maybe we anticipated going into this year for ECU.
Yeah, I mean, last year they were one of the better defenses in ECU history, and a lot of people expected that to be back. But then when you really look at like the talent we've lost from injury, from graduation from last year, I mean, Jack Powers, our good buddy, was a good player for him. Jeremy Lewis, Julius Wood, who's now on the active roster of the Tennessee Titans. Siobhan Ravel is going to be a first-round draft pick. Like, you lost guys there.
We talked about some transfers yesterday with Tegan Wilk and guys like that.
Yeah, it's like you lost. I mean, that's 5 guys right there who are like had years and years in the program in the defense.
Taylor Jackson.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like we lost a lot, but at the same time, we just had so much returning on the D-line that, there was a lot of high expectations, which, I mean, they haven't been terrible. They just haven't been as good as everyone thought they would be.
Yeah, and that could lead to a shootout. What do you think about the Mean Green's quarterback?
I think he's really good. Chandler Morris is really. I was high on him when he was at TCU. It's pretty sure it's Chad Morris's son, which would have been crazy if we hired him as the OC here.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have got him here if we hired Chad Morris, but. I think he's really, really good. We kind of talked about it a little bit, and talked to Caden and you a little bit off air. It's like they're like the new Americans, like SMU, like the Texas school that's going to get the transfers, that's going to get the receivers. Now SMU's balling out in another conference right now, but yeah, I mean North Texas is always going to have those guys from here on out, I'd imagine.
East Carolina and North Texas coming up 3:30 on Saturday. Our pregame coverage begins 11:30. Pirates going for win number 7 on the year, and what a week it's been in the American. If you have not fired your coach, you are in the minority right now. Every Owl team in Division I football fired their coach.
You serious?
Kennesaw State joins Rice, Temple, and FAU.
Wow.
4 Owls all got rid of their coaches this year.
That's crazy.
There's a stat for you.
I just saw a tweet this morning. We tweeted on our channel that Ray Lewis is like one of the front runners for the FAU job.
No way.
Yeah, they're trying to do like the Deion Sanders type thing, and
Chris Carter's
he's an analyst there. Chris Carter's there already, or like a NIL guy. So if they hire Ray Lewis, that'd be a killer move.
Chris Carter, I wouldn't say he got in trouble, but made headlines when he told rookies to get a fall guy. Yeah. Holton, is Caden Norman your fall guy? Now that I think about it,
I'm Caden's fall guy.
There is fall guy. But Biff Poggi out.
Yeah.
How about the old Biffer?
I'm telling you, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but Coach Houston would be a great hire if they. It'd be hilarious.
Back to the Future.
But dude, you got to think because he almost he really did get hired there for like a day. But you got to think everywhere he's been, he's flipped the program. Even at ECU, he did that. No matter what people say, like he did lose to Charlotte. I understand that, but also he's won in the American. He has North Carolina ties. Like, what else are they looking for?
Here would be my issue. I think it's pretty obvious. He lost to the team twice that's hired him. I don't know.
No, I get that. But if you just look at like overall, like what he's done, like it's like kind of what they're looking for. I would imagine is what they're looking for. I saw Skip Holt's name was thrown in there. He's been thrown in every G5 job though. It seems like.
Have you you still in contact with Coach Houston? Like, what do you think his next move is going to be? Where does
I'm dead serious when I say this. Like, I think he's genuinely will get looked at for the Charlotte job.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I know he wants to coach. His kids love it here. He loves it here. So I mean, he may take a year off or something. I don't want to like put words in his mouth, but we haven't talked too much about that. Just more about. I mean, we're good friends now, so I've just kept up with each other.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the kids love it here factor is real, and
it is.
My mom just called me before we went on and said, "Do you think Blake Harrell's going to get the job?" And I was like, I don't know. And she said, "Do you think he would stay if he didn't get the head coaching job?" And the head coach asked him to be defensive coordinator. And I still think, and Holton, you've kind of been big on that, but like egos get involved, hard feelings, bitterness, I don't know. But he has kids that
he does,
and his family love it here. So.
I know his wife's really in the community as well. He's in the community a lot too, but I think if he's not the head coach here, he's the head coach of Kennesaw State next year. Like that's just a no-brainer to me. I think he's the head coach next year. Like Kennesaw State's purposes is kind of just like us, but on a lower level. It's like he has experience at Kennesaw State. He was really successful at Kennesaw State, and now it's like, why wouldn't you? He has head coaching experience now too, where he's winning. So for them, it's a no-brainer. I'm hoping same thing for us.
Yeah, we always say that he's not just auditioning for this job, but for every job that's available.
It was like Ruff McNeil when he took the Texas Tech interim job and ended up getting the job here. So
all right, playoff rankings come out again. This is the week for the Indiana Hoosiers. They play their one game basically. Yeah, Ohio State, and we'll get your picks later in the week, but. Thoughts on that one, and I hate to ask you this way more than can they win, but do you think it'll be a close game? Do you think it'll be a one-score game, two-score game?
I'm really high on Ohio State. I really am. But it's hard to ignore what Indiana's done this year. If their name was Ohio State, they'd be number one probably in the country, I think. But
well, yeah, just look at Notre Dame. They've got one loss to a bad Northern Illinois team, and they're still, top 10.
Which good grief. I think they would get killed in the playoff. I hope Notre Dame loses before. Hopefully Army beats them. That'd be really cool.
But that name goes a long way.
No, it does for sure. I mean that game is weird. Isn't the line like big in that one?
I think it was 12.5 last time I looked.
Yeah, like I like Indiana a lot in that line, but I think Ohio State's receivers are as good as anyone in the country. Actually, we were talking off air, Geno Smith's nephew is Jeremiah Smith, the all-world freshman receiver.
Oh yeah,
for Ohio State.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah, we when me, him, and Drew Locke would be in meetings. He's like, dude, my nephew's gonna be the best receiver ever, and everyone and me and Drew were like, oh, okay, and then
yeah, right.
We didn't actually know, and then I was watching their clips of their spring game or something. They're like, that's Geno Smith's nephew. I was like, oh gosh, he wasn't lying.
You've got, so in the ACC, keeping an eye on SMU and Miami. Big 12, I've been kind of putting out the feelers on Colorado, saying, hey, keep an eye on this. It could happen. And BYU loses to Kansas, who, by the way, plays Colorado, that famous meme of the Grim Reaper going to different doors. And you see it in sports over the years. That's Kansas right now. They are the ultimate spoiler. They are knocking off teams, and now Colorado is next. They are going to Kansas. They are only a 2.5-point favorite.
I hope they win. I'm a big fan of what they've done. I think that's a cool, and maybe not the way they've gone about all of it, but I think it's just a cool story, and it's great for sports. It'd be sick to see them in the playoff. Because
Dion is so kind of in your face with it and everything, we don't really look at the turnaround that happened. Colorado was one of, if not the worst power schools in the country.
It's probably, a lot of people say it was the worst job to get in the, literally it was, and he's turning around, and now we're even talking about them being in the playoff is wild. I mean, it was a big deal when they just made a bowl game this year. When they clinched a bowl game, it was the first time in a while, and that was a big deal. And now we're talking about them winning the Big 12 and going to the playoffs. Yeah, I hope so. It's kind of crazy, and it kind of just represents what college athletics are now. It's you don't have to be the best X's and O's coach anymore to run a program and run a successful program, which is really cool.
Yeah, and let me take it to my video game. So I was in an online dynasty. I had Utah, lost 4 games, I think, but won the Big 12 championship. And I was like, sweet. All right, who's my playoff matchup? I didn't get in because, and it's funny too, because I was watching a national show, and they were like, well, how's Boise get a bye ahead of the Big 12? Because Boise is the 4 right now in the rankings that came out last night.
Really? So
because they are ranked ahead of the highest Big 12 team. Dang. And there's no guarantee that any conference gets in the playoff. So if the top 4 champions get buys and are automatically in, and then it's all up for grabs after that. Yeah. So there is a chance, if Colorado and BYU lose, there's a chance the Big 12 could be left out of the whole thing, which would be nuts.
That is nuts. Holy cow.
It's unlikely. Yeah. But it was also unlikely that and still is, I think, that a group of 5 team would get that first round bye. But right now, that is the setup. And I was watching a national show, Unnecessary Roughness on Barstool with Brandon Walker and them. And I've been talking about this all year with Mac and even with you that, like, hey, group of 5, if they're ranked ahead of Big 12, could, and they were looking at it like, wait, what? Is this possible? What happened here? Is this a mistake? Like, they have not even put it in their brains because they follow SEC, Big Ten, that this could be a possibility. And
that is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I love the G5, but that no G5. I don't think anyone that no G5 school this year deserves a bye in the playoff. That's a little absurd to me.
Well, does a Big 12 team? Because I would say the Big 12 is the closest thing to the group of 5 right now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, BYU was a group of 5 member, or they were independent, I guess.
See, what's crazy to think is, like, if the Big 10 has, like, Ohio State and Oregon and Indiana. Like, you're telling me 2 of those teams don't deserve a bye over Boise State? Like, that's
but that's just the way the rules are set up. So, which is why the 5 seed, they have to play an extra game, but they have a really good path to the semifinal because Ohio State would play whoever 12 is right now, and I'll have to look it up. But then in round 2, they would get Boise State on a neutral site and be a 14-point favorite probably.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's why the playoff is fun. That's why expanding it is awesome.
Yeah. Who's that?
BYU.
Yeah. So Ohio State's path to the semis would be a home game versus BYU where they're huge favorites, and then Boise State in round 2. And you know what? You could flip that. It's probably going to be number 5 is going to play the Big 12 champion, and then a team that play Boise State, and then the Big 12 champion. So
I'm pulling for Army. I hope Army beats Notre Dame, and then the question is, does Army jump up ahead of Boise State?
I
think so.
Would they rise in that case? What is the line on that, Holt?
No clue.
14.5 Notre Dame. I don't hate Army there.
I like that a lot. I would dabble even in the money line. I'm serious. I think if Army's quarterback is healthy, like we met with Chad Stevens, who I wear last night. We talked about like how hard it is to defend the triple option, and they like literally said like this quarterback makes it like a different level because you can't just follow your rules. You have to also take into play that he's one of the better athletes you'll face all year. And Notre Dame hasn't faced triple option that I'd imagine, or they faced Navy. They beat them pretty good, but Navy's kind of fell off lately, which they screwed me in my bets this week.
It's such a machine, like when Army and Navy get rolling, that you just think it's plug and play. But it is amazing how much a special quarterback changes everything. Like Malcolm Perry and the long list of guys at Navy.
I mean, if you look at if any ECU fan watched the game versus Army this year, they saw how good that kid was. I mean, he was electric.
Yeah. Another 14.5, 13.5 point spread. Alabama at Oklahoma, and I'm wondering if Oklahoma looks elsewhere for a coach this year.
Yeah,
they really struggled. Let's see, Texas hosting Kentucky, but again, at all eyes kind of noon. What can Indiana do against Ohio State? That's going to be pretty fascinating. Holden will get your picks. How you doing, by the way, on those?
I'm like 33-19, so pretty good.
All right,
still winning.
Took your advice, put Karl Anthony Towns double in a parlay the other night.
Put it in there tonight, too.
Pretty
10
automatic.
Versus the Suns.
Yeah. I don't know. What else you watching in sports right now? Knicks and college football?
4 times a week. College football on Saturdays. Haven't missed a minute of a Knicks game yet.
Commanders need to get back on track. They lost 2 in a row, but they have the lowly Cowboys this week. So hopefully.
It'd be bad if they lost that one.
And I want to do a deep dive with you. Like, why are the lines so dominant? I get why they're good, but like they're the best team in the NFL. I don't know if it's close.
It's been a long time since the team has literally just ran through. Like, I mean, they're scoring incredible points and not giving up any points defensively. Like, I haven't seen this in a really long time. Yeah. So.
Love Dan Campbell. And
tell you who would be a good head coach and hire from that team? Scotty Montgomery.
I tell you what, he's got those running backs going.
Dude, no kidding. Everywhere he's been, like, they've produced.
Coach Mo 2.0.
He's going to... What if they brought him back here? He was 2 hires ahead of him. He would be a great NIL because he's a good recruiter. He'd be a great NIL coach now. He was just way ahead of his time. I don't know why we jumped
And I wonder when he's going to get his next opportunity. Does he go back to college? Does he stay in the NFL?
I bet he stays in the NFL. He honestly, he fits like the NFL mold. He really fits like the NFL and the college head coaching mold are starting to like get really similar.
True. Yeah.
But he's been so successful in the NFL, whereas like college, he's struggled a little bit, obviously with ECU. So I can see him staying with the NFL.
Next step, coordinator job, I guess, in the NFL.
I'd imagine so. And I'm telling you, like he's the best X's and O's coach I've been around. So like he will get a coordinator job and probably do really well.
Did you say Scotty Montgomery is the best X's and O's coach you've been around?
Yes.
Wow.
Including Seattle. Like he genuinely was. He just got thrown into a head coaching position when he was young and had 100%. No experience.
Yeah. And that's not his fault.
Yeah.
If somebody offered you money to be a head coach, you would accept it.
Yeah.
Whether you're ready or not.
He was like, when Donnie was here, no knack on Donnie, like we knew going into like we would have to audible to get into the best play. Like when Coach Mo was here, at least when I was a quarterback, the 1 year for 6 games when I was a starter, like I would go into games thinking like whatever play he calls in, like we're going to have somewhat of an advantage somewhere. Now I was young and probably didn't take the best advantage of it. But his offense and his scheme really was the best I've been around.
All right, there you go. There's the sound bite.
Hate that.
There's the sound bite from this week.
Yeah.
Sound off, folks. All right. Hold. Enjoy it, man. We'll talk to you Saturday pregame, and of course after the game, U.S. Sailor 5th quarter call-in show. We'll have Maui Jim back. Caden will be back in studio.
He is.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.